Sit down, rest backwards. Listen to the music. It sounds good, yeah. Sit down, rest backwards. Listen to the music. It sounds good, yeah. Makes you have to be your mind walking, riding you. Hear all the streets, watching the people moving. Can you feel your mind walking right in you?
Alrighty, Uncle Roddus here, back again with more vinyl acquisitions. I'm way behind on my videos in that I make the videos way before I get to post them. I've actually got 3 videos on the laptop ready to go up posting, but I'm only going to post them once every week or so. I don't. If I put too many up, no one will watch them, and not that many people watch my videos anyway. But this weekend, it's now Monday night, this weekend we've just been down to Dunedin, the southernmost city in New Zealand. Now, I suppose you could count Invercargill was considered to be a city, but it's not really on a world scale, it's pretty small. I mean, Dunedin's a pretty small place, probably a couple of 100,000 people if you're lucky. It's a groovy town, it's a student town, it's a port. It's got some pretty cool old architecture which we really enjoy. Yeah, both me and the wife like it a lot down there. We managed to get some reasonably good weather while we were there. It was quite nice, although we were mainly shopping. So I was looking around the record shops and she was looking around the bookshops. But one bonus is the bookshops are just phenomenal down there. We went to 6 huge second-hand book emporiums, all absolutely full to the brim. Reasonable amount of music selection, but not a lot of New Zealand music books, which is what I was after. But I did strike it pretty lucky at the first shop we went to, which is a big shop called Scribes, and that was the one that she really wanted to go to because we'd been there before and bought some books a year or 2 ago when we were there. So I struck it really lucky at Scribes, to be honest. I was really rapt to find this book on Mike Knock. Mike Knock's a New Zealand jazz pianist, probably our best export. He's our jazz version of the of Lilburn. What's his name? Douglas Lilburn, who is our most internationally renowned composer, although long dead. Mr. Mike is fairly old now. He'd be in his late 70s. He was playing in Australia in the late 50s and ended up overseas. So these are all from Scribe. I picked up this one called Erewhon Calling, which is a book on the experimental sound in New Zealand. I actually had borrowed this from the library and read it, and this is what had kind of helped me getting into the stuff like the Lines of Flight Festival, which I talked about earlier this year. And I found 2 general histories on rock and pop. So this one here by a guy called Gareth Shute from New Zealand Rock from 87 to 2007, and an earlier one, the story of New Zealand rock music from, well, this goes from the 1950s or even pre-50s up until 2003. These general histories, I started reading this one. I got a feeling that there was a discussion about this a while back about there's quite a lot of inaccuracies, and I already found one pretty much just by opening a page and looking at something of one of the bands I knew, which was interesting. So it'd be interesting to see how that shapes up. Now there was a book called Stranded in Paradise, which is probably the most well-known New Zealand general music history on rock and pop, out of print. I borrowed that from the library, read it recently, and asked the guy if he had a copy, and he said, actually I have, and he said it's in the glass case over there, and I knew automatically if it was in the glass case and I probably wouldn't be able to afford it. It was the second edition, which was put out in the 2000s after the original from 1988, I think. But he had $75 on it, and it was near new, but I'm not paying that for a book. Anyway, my pickups from Dunedin. Playing in the background is this Blow, BLO, Nigerian funk rock from 1975. Now this album, I was just listing it on Discogs before. This is a reissue on Hot Casa Records from out of France, but it doesn't have the year on it, but I think it's fairly recent, last year or two, maybe last year. This originally came out in 1975. As you can hear, it's pretty cool Afro funk. That was there were 2 copies actually listed of originals listed on Discogs for. One was about similar price I paid for this, but it had no cover and it was pretty noisy, and the other one was in very poor condition, so yeah, reasonably rare. I bought this off a guy called Andrew, who has a kind of a record selling setup called Noise Worth Hearing, and I've bought stuff from him before and I've shown it on my videos, and this time I actually met him. He came into the shop and bought a whole bunch of stuff in because he knew I was coming, and we had a great chat. It was really cool, and yeah, I bought several records off him. So this was the first, this was one. So I was looking for New Zealand stuff, of course, as I do, and I said to him, make sure you bring in your New Zealand stuff. And he had some, there was some I had to leave behind. Some was a little bit too pricey for me. Some was, and I just basically didn't have enough money to get everything that he had, but he had some pretty interesting stuff. This doesn't tell you much, but this is an album by a band called the Renderizers. Now the Renderizers are an extended version of the Renderers, who I've shown before, which is Brian Crook and his wife Mary Rose Crook. But this time they've teamed up with some additional musicians, and notably one Stefan Nebel from Pumice. This was put out on Grapefruit Records. Grapefruit have this kind of subscription system where you subscribe and get so many records per year, I think, and they're quite obscure. This is a limited edition number 124 of 300, hand numbered. I like the Renderers, so this will be interesting. I did have a listen to it before, and some of it sounded pretty cool, but it needs focused attention to reveal its depths. Also off Andrew, I picked up this by the Cavemen. This is raw punk, dirty garage sort of rock. I haven't actually had a listen to this yet. It's their second album. Their first album came out on 112 Records, which I still have to get my hands on at some stage. Pretty raw lo-fi stuff. But yeah, Andrew did say he reckoned it's a really cool album. So, Born to Hate, it's called. Also, I picked up from him was this one. I was hoping to find some of this one in Dunedin. This is actually an EP, but it's off on Zell Records. Sea Fog, Dig It On Up. So they're a Dunedin band. Actually, you probably had a copy of this because there was a big Zell Records Fest, and a bunch of bands played down there the weekend before. The problem with Zell Records is they are distributed by a place in the North Island, and they don't distribute them much down in the South Island, certainly not in Christchurch. I have spoken to one of the guys locally about it, who actually knows the guy from Zell Records. I've spoken to the guy from Zell Records on Facebook. I could buy them out of Europe, because yeah, he's based in Europe. He's a Kiwi, but he's based in Europe and he's releasing New Zealand music. Also from Andrew, and I could not leave behind, was this one here, Analog Africa's latest compilation. Now I have a heap of Analog Africa stuff on CD. This is the first one I've bought on vinyl. Oops. What's this called? Pop Mancosa. The invasive dance beat of Cameroon from 76 to 84. Now, like I say, I've got several I mean, I haven't got all of the Analog Africa stuff because I was focusing mainly on the compilations, but I've got just about, I think I've got all of the compilations in that now, I think. But this is the first time I've seen it on vinyl. Actually, it wasn't too bad because it is a double LP. Yes, it is. So yeah, looking forward to playing this because yeah, they are. I think Analog Africa are probably the premium compilation for African music compilations. They are probably. I mean, there are some great labels out there. I mean, there's Strut, Soundwave. All of them put out fantastic compilations, but I think these guys are probably the top of the heap. So we went to Zodiac over in South Dunedin. Zodiac, I managed to pick up some really interesting stuff. Last time I picked up 2 Nurse with Wound records, which are really hard and do not turn up around this country very often that I've ever seen before. And I got them for a price that I was willing to pay. I went over the top. But he was pretty thin on the ground for his pickings, to be honest. I went through a lot more of his bins this time. There was some stuff there that was interesting. His prices were a bit steep, to be honest, and the condition not good. But I did finally pick up this. It wasn't too badly priced. This here, Split Ends, this was about their 3rd or 4th album from 1980. This is when they really hit it big in New Zealand and probably started to get big overseas. You know, it just came out when I was like 13. And it was all over the radio. I've Got You, I Hope I Never, Poor Boy, yeah, you know, really cool. It was a really cool album, and this was the very first, along with My Sex's Space Race, which I only have on CD at the moment. They were the very first 2 albums I ever owned. And my mother got them for me for Christmas because I sold them with my collection back in '98. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to play yet. I haven't played it, but there are some bits of stuff that I couldn't get off it. Also at Zodiac I picked up this one. He had 2 copies of this. This was the one that was in better condition. I do see this around a bit, and I'm pretty sure I might have even had a copy of it back in the day. I'm not actually sure what year this came out now. It was sometime in the mid to late 80s, and they had a couple of hits. The News, Heard the News, kind of new wavy pop from memory. I haven't played this yet, but you know, it's a New Zealand record, so I'm adding it to my New Zealand collection. Also while I was in Zodiac, my partner was going through all his comics and stuff, old stuff. She was looking for some stuff, so she was sort of taking a bit longer. I sort of popped across and came across this. It didn't have a price on it, but I actually picked it up for $3. Sniffing the Tears. I kind of knew Sniffing the Tears. They've got their probably best known song is, what's it called? Driver's Seat, which is on the Chiswick compilation, which Chiswick was a label from the late 70s, early 80s in the UK, and they had quite an eclectic roster at the time, and yeah, the compilation I have on CD is quite cool. So you know, I knew that song, and so I picked up this album. I mean, I got it for $3, and it cleaned up reasonably well. The cover's intact. The cover's a little bit risque, as you can see. Had a quick listen to this yesterday when we got home. That was the first thing I pulled out. It sounds alright. I mean, it's not as good as the song that I knew. This was their 2nd album from 1980. We popped out to Port Chalmers on Saturday afternoon after we'd done a whole bunch of stuff in town and done some of this more shopping, and caught up with Andrew and that. Last time I was in Port Chalmers, we had a quick look for records, and we weren't that successful, and it turns out we didn't actually look hard enough. So there was one shop that had about four bins of records out the back. There wasn't a lot of interest to me, but it was better than your average junk shop fare. You know, it is a kind of second-handy type shop. Turned out I was talking to a lady there, and her daughter is a musician who knows Nadia Reid and has played in a cool band called Eastern, who I like, a while back, and she's coming to tour here soon, so I might see and catch up with her and see what she's like. But anyway, I did find in that shop this album, Depeche Mode's first LP from 1981, I think it is. I had this album when I was younger. Just Can't Get Enough was the track that blew us all away. I'm not sure how this is going to sound. It's a lot, now, you know, well shit, nearly 35, 37 years later, I'm not sure how this is going to sound. I haven't played it yet, but I still do like that song. This is Depeche Mode. This and their other album, second album, came out, Broken Frame, I think it was called. Those were the two albums that I was familiar with. I didn't kind of follow them after that. I know they're a lot darker. I actually do have one of their later albums on CD. Finally, on Saturday night while in Dunedin, the Maidens were playing a gig. Now the Maidens are a Wellington band, and they played here on the Friday night, and of course I'd already left town. They're supporting their new album. I had to listen to the album, thought that it sounded reasonably good, so I went to the gig because Lynn was feeling a bit fluey, and she still is actually, so she went and had an early night, which meant I sort of ended up sitting there watching TV, so I decided to go out and check out the band, and this is their album. Their concert was quite good. Actually, the blonde girl, she plays in two bands. She plays in this band, and she plays in another band called the Earth Tongue, and she played she played second actually with Earth Tongue. Lovely kind of orangey type vinyl. This is kind of a self-released thing. It's not on Flying Nun, is it? No, sorry, tell a lie, it's actually on Flying Nun. Yeah, there were three bands. The first band was a local band called Koizilla, who well, they call themselves surf rock, and somebody asked me yesterday if I thought they were surf rock, but I don't know. I didn't really think they were. They're a little bit heavier than that. I thought they were fantastic, actually. The bass player had some absolutely stunning bass lines. Really blew me away. First song was, as soon as they had a quiet start, some jangly guitar, and then the bass and drums whacked in, and just like, wow, really some pretty intense stuff. And more than half their set was along the same lines. They got a bit quieter at places, but yeah, they were really impressive. Very, very young. Yeah, and so they were cool. And then Earth Tongue played with the blonde girl there. I'm not sure what her name is. What's her name? Maybe Gussie Larkin, I guess, or Lily Paris. I'm not sure. Lily Paris West. No, it must be Gussie, I think her name is. Earth Tongue was a lot heavier and darker and more experimental and noisier. I mean, these guys are kind of more indie pop and nice and some good complex songs, but yeah, I really enjoyed Earth Tongue a lot more, to be honest. Yeah, they got a little bit sort of like, okay, I've had enough kind of thing, and they did an encore, which is fine, but I sort of had enough. But the record I have here listened to before I went out, and I do think it's pretty cool. But yeah, someone else, actually I went out to a gig last night as well, and I bought some records, but I'll talk about them in my next video. And one of the guys there, he said he saw the Maidens on the Friday night in Christchurch, and he said, yeah, they were okay, but he said it all got a bit the same, and which is what I kind of thought too. So, but overall, it was a good gig, and it was a good turnout actually. Yeah, the Dunedinites support the music down there. They were a little bit more than what we do in Christchurch, and I probably was the oldest person in the crowd on that night. Anyway, that's another video. So this makes 4 videos I've got backlogged up. So I've got another bunch of albums which actually arrived in the mail today, some pre-orders, and one that arrived yesterday when we got home, and then I picked up 2 albums at a gig last night, which I'll talk about, and then I've got one more in the post, and that is kind of it. And I really need to reel it in for a bit, and just kind of recover financially. Right, that's me. We'll see you next time.